Okay. Wife getting on to me. I took the wrong vehicle. let's open it up with Psalms. Out of the Bible, Roger. Out of the Bible. Psalms 3. He says it's a prayer. It's a song of prayer when David is running from his son Absalom. He says, "O Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? These are saying of me, God will not deliver him. But you, O Lord, you bestow glory on me and lift up my head. He answers me from the holy hill. I awake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear the 10,000s drawn up against me on every side. Arise, O Lord, deliver me, O my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw. Break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessings be on your people. Amen."
Amen.
Absalom was trying to take the kingdom from him. Absalom let it get to his head. He would walk through the crowd. He was a very good-looking man, apparently. And when he walked through the crowd would say, "Look at Absalom. Why can't we have Absalom?" Because at that point, David's stuff like falling out of grace with people. You know, a lot of victories. He had the Bathsheba thing already, and but he was getting older, and his son was coming in. And his son was a good soldier. Well, Absalom winds up getting stuck in the tree. When the Civil War, David tells him, unfortunately, they kill him because they're like, we get have it. And that was common. The emperors ever was usurped by their sons or by their grandsons while they were out in campaigning. So last week we've been talking about the profane or the common. Profane and common is the same word in Hebrew. It's whole. You transliterate it, not. Yeah, I'll show you. Transliterate it for you. So this is called a het, and it's a glural. That means when you say it, you think of like Bach, right? So you say. If you speak English, I hope all you do. Hopefully I do too. You speak more with the front of your mouth. You speak Hebrew, you speak with the back of your throat. That's why when you go from Hebrew to English, when we did the Passover Seder, a long time ago now, when I was done, I was happy. My throat hurt so bad because when you go from the English, when I do the speaking up in front of my mouth, when I'm doing the Hebrew, I'm to push back into my and so hope. And then you put a little dot right here. Later on, there's put a dot, and that's your vowel. So this is an O vowel. And if you translate this, you usually transliterate it more like this. Chor. Like chor. Right? Interesting thing about that, I'm not into this, but if you know anything about Hebrew, and if you've been around me long enough, the people have been with me like Roger's been with me forever, I mentioned this before. All Hebrew words started out as symbols. They're pictograph. This is a strong wall. This is a tower or a strong wall. So you're going to do that with a brick wall standing here. And this is a shepherd's cane. And so it's like a defense mechanism, something that guards you away. In other words, profane doesn't come before the Lord because there's a wall there. There's something, profane is kept out. It's kept out by the wall and by a shepherd cane. What does a shepherd cane do? A shepherd cane can pull you close or beat you in the head. It can also push you back. It's a defense mechanism. A shepherd cane were one of the first defenses against bears or lions. Yes, lions and wolves. The ancient Semitics did have lions. They were a little smaller than the lions of Africa. And then, of course, your defense mechanism is your wall. So cane is looked at something that draw. That's why if you look at when you're saying onto something in Hebrew, a lot of times you'll put a llama in front of your word here. And basically how the rabbi taught me is, think about it like this. The llama is saying 2 or 4. What is 2 and 4 doing? It's dragging that word to it. You're going to it. So the cane is working as you're going to, or pulling to. Like a bob is in. Usually we translate it as in. In ancient times, it looks more like this now. In ancient times, it's a noun. So what are you doing with the Bible? You're nailing two words together. You're nailing this side of the sentence and this side together. So that's how I think of Hebrew. That's how I was taught to learn how to pick up on some of my prefixes, suffixes, and stuff like that. You're nailing together these things. Like the hand. A lot of times you'll see a hand. The God or the Yod is the hand. Let's use that now. And originally, it looked like this. It represents the whole arm here. So this would be your cubic. All right, that's how you would also determine your cubic. So your cubic represents from your fingertip, your main finger to here. And that runs between 15 to 18 inches. Bible.com, they change it all the time. So that's your cubic. So you know your cubic. Yeah, if you're bigger, that's the problem. So it gets thinner. So we have what we call the royal cubic, and that's Egyptian, and then Solomon and the Jews pick up and they kind of use the same measure. So Yod, what does the hand do? The hand works. It's a working thing, right? You grab, you work with it. So a lot of your actions formats are like when God is moving or God is working on something. You'll see in between there, you'll see a yod put into the word, and that implies that the man is working. So you get these little things like that. So that's just the thing. Anyway, so what is common? What is cold? Right? It's not holy. It's not necessarily bad either. We are common. We're common people, right? We march to the world. We're not billionaires, we're not zillionaires. In our society, we think kosher or holy or kodesh. In an economic society, we look at billionaires as set apart from us. And kodesh, the opposite word, and that's all that is. It's to be set apart. So kodesh is right here. Depending on which one you want to use, usually it looks like this in the root word. Kadesh. Ka. There you go. Kadesh. Kadesh is holy. It's said, usually it implies to be set upon unto the work of God, Yahweh. It doesn't always have to work that way. When God says to put out the prostitute, He uses that word, Kadesh. Put them outside the cabinet, because they're not holy. So words can change meanings, just so you know. But this thing about like old ancient times, it's a preposition. It's set on par to working. Who are you set on par to working? What makes you holy? So when the angel says Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh in Isaiah 7, who is he talking about? Who is the set apart one? Yahweh. He's set outside. He's set into a different dimension. He's not here in this world with us. He's outside of our time, space, and matter. Matter doesn't matter to God, because He's outside of matter. Right? So what's our other word? So to be whole doesn't necessarily mean you're bad. To be unclean doesn't necessarily mean you're bad. I started this off saying that. To be unclean just means you're unclean. If it's bad, then all women would be bad, at least at some point in their life, once a month. Because they would be considered unclean. I think the problem with our Americanism, our American reading of the Bible, we have set everything on to this. We set everything in two categories. Holy. And unfortunately, we have been the arbiters of truth in our own lives where we are to decide that we are the holy ones and everybody else is not. I always joke around with my Calvinistic friends. I've never met a Calvin that wasn't sanctified and going to heaven. Everybody else is not, though. Just so you know. They get to choose what songs is kosher and which songs are not kosher. And you're like, well, what standard do you use? You see what I'm saying? So there's always a standard. And this happens with Jews as well, where, the whole starts becoming something you're no longer good enough. Where I am the rabbi, I'm Kodesh. I can sit inside and I can read my Bible all day long. Because I am elite, right? So they become, all of a sudden it becomes used for elitist type of thinking. The billionaire is better than me because he's a billionaire. He has a billion reasons why he's better than me. Right? But that's how our culture started to develop. Even in Judaism, that's how culture started. You have these. Yeah, go ahead. I'll stop.
That's the problem.
Thank you. So, people online, I'm gonna share a dear friend of mine from work, Miss Kay. I want to shout out to Miss Kay. She's a great. She laughs at all my jokes.
Well, she's the only one, huh?
Yeah, that's right. I got one fan, Miss Kay. Yeah, she's a good, godly woman. I love her to death. I just want to. I told her I'd send it to her because she wanted to teach Sunday school, and she was like, "Well, let me see it." And I was going to show her one video, and it was only 12 minutes, and I was like, "Darn it, I must have did something wrong." Dana was like, "Get rid of that guy." That's why I was asking. And then, but it said, if you look at it before you click on it, it says it's 55 minutes, whatever an hour is, and all that. Anyways, so this is set apart in the service of Yahweh. This is not some man or last Sunday and Sunday. The average Jewish man is going to be here. The average Gentile is not. He's going to be over here somewhere. He's going to get to the next words we're going to use. So the average, the high priest, he's really one of the few that really stays here because of his service he has to do. So the average Jew is not necessarily holy enough to go. That's not saying he's not holy. He's just not at this level. So there is a degree of holiness here, where the high priest has to be sanctified. The high priest can only touch dead bodies of like his wife. So if the high priest is laying in the bed, his wife dies, he has to do a cleansing ritual and all that, but he's not considered no longer usable. He touches other people's dead bodies. And all of a sudden, he's profane. All of a sudden, he's moving into this category. So now he cannot really be used. And so the high priest has all these variables he has to abide by, all these things, all these guidelines he has to abide by, and all these variables he has to dodge because he has to stay here in the Kadesh. So where would a Gentile be? Well, here where you would be, right here. I want y'all to see these words for a reason, because I think it's important. First of all, you see Hebrew. This is Tameh. Is that right? I don't always remember my mouth. God bless you, sir. So this is Tameh. You have your symbol will be right here. So you say Ta Meh. Because you have a closed vowel right here. This does not carry a sound at all. Aleph never carries, first letter Hebrew alphabet, never carries a sound, but it's still literal. And another Hebrew word that never carries a sound is an ayin. And this used to be a head of an ox back in the day. If you want to see the picture, common. Hey, good morning. And an ayin is the all-seeing eye. There's your pagan in the right. Ayin means eye. The letter ayin means eye. Anyway, Tameh.
I have one over.
Yeah, Tameh is unclean. Most Gentiles were deemed unclean because most Gentiles are deemed unclean because they are not doing any of the cleaning processes they need. Like for a Jewish person, a Jewish man, he's going to be at festivals, the feasts. So he's going to be at Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. So he's going to get the blood sprinkled on him. He's going to be doing these cleaning processes. He's going to be doing his prayers, hopefully, right? So the high priest is going to be doing all these, or the average Jew is going to be doing all these things so he can live in the land of Israel, because he doesn't have to be this holy with the high priest, but he does have to be clean. So that's your word. So Tameh is unclean, something that has touched something defiled, something that is not Kodesh at all. And so for the Gentile, he has limited access to Yahweh. Because unless he's going to take on the circumcision, unless he's going to take on all the other burdens that the average Jewish man or average Hebrew at this time, still Hebrews, the average Hebrew man takes on, he'll always be unclean because he eats the pork. He eats the things that shouldn't be eating. He does the things he shouldn't be eating. He makes an offering on the idol. And of course, the next word is the word that we are because of the blood of Jesus. I don't remember how to spell these words sometimes. Tahor. So this Bob here is working as a vowel. This is called a Holam Bob because a Bob in Hebrew carries several vowels. If you put the vowel here, it's called a Holam Bob because it makes an O sound. You put the vowel here, it is not a Holam Bob, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head now, but it makes a U sound. It's a ooh, like someone's punching your stomach. Ooh. Or, what is it? Or, and of course it can carry a kamatz, a, or a different, or an E. You got two E's. So this is your long E and this is your short E. Yeah, maybe a little longer than that. These matters when you're trying to make your syllables and you're dealing with your different deep-ish. Anyways, so this is Tahor. None of them has that. And it means clean. In order to be set apart unto Yahweh, you have to be clean. So that's your 4 words that matter to you when you're reading Leviticus and when you're understanding John and the Jewish understanding of cleanliness and unclean. You get these 4 words down, and you got it. You got it. All right. So we'll go back to the pamphlet. I just want to go over the 4 words. I thought it was interesting. Not special time, I guess. Everybody got a paper. You should see food. It should start with foods because that's where we stopped at. If you don't, you got paper. I even put April 26th on it.
Thank you, I left mine. Thank you,
That's what we're here for. Take care of you.
thank you. I need all that y'all can give me.
So this was what we went over already. I didn't want to have to go back and reread half what we've been reading because it takes longer to do that. So we'll just start where we left off. It says foods were classified according to the categories of clean, tahor, right? Proper for Jews, ingest, and unclean, tameh. Not proper for Jews, but fine for Gentiles who are themselves unclean. So it's going to talk about Cornelius, and we'll talk about Cornelius later, but Cornelius is a Gentile who is going into the synagogue, and he's probably going through a conversion. He's probably thinking about converting. But not everybody does, so sometimes they want to give it off and stuff like that. So they leave the Tahor and they go to the Tameh, the clean. They almost make it. That's it. Or the Tahor, they go to. Anyways. And unclean, not proper for Jews or Gentiles who are themselves unclean. Since food was encountered daily, this became one of the more important reminders of the Jews' distinctiveness and set-apartness for God. It was the purity of the Torah. Animal blood, which contained life, belonged to God alone and was never to be ingested. Leviticus 17:10 through 14. Remember, blood is unclean unless it goes to the occultic practice in Leviticus. If you want to understand that, you need to read Leviticus 1 through 5 at least. And so what they would do, they would bring these things into the Lord. The Lord would then, they would bring them into the practice. I use the word occultic. I really want in a sense. It's a occultic practice. They take the animal, they do the process, the special cutting up to let the blood out. They put all out, right? It's kind of like doing a deer. You hang it upside down and cut the throat, right? You let the blood drain. So you let the blood drain out. The blood is then presented before Yahweh. The deer is presented before Yahweh. And so the process is then clean. It says in Leviticus, but if you kill a deer without doing this process, without the offering unto God, you kill it and it's unclean. And the man who does it needs to be put out of the camp. So the process of how you do this is very important. Because in the process, you're no longer committing murder. In the process, You're giving life. The blood is life. The blood makes life. It's a representative. The blood of Jesus is ultimate life. So when it spreads out for us, so God ain't punishing Jesus on the cross because Jesus is becoming like sin, like evil, or Jesus is unclean or anything like that. He's not the Yom Kippur lamb that gets sent out. That's not what's going on in there. Because he's still in the camp. The Yom Kippur lamb, I think this is where people get mistaken. I'm going to go on a little tangent for a minute because I really want to understand this. The Yom Kippur lamb, you go out to it, you lay your hands on it, you send it outside of the camp. It's done all in the process of outside of the camp. Sin doesn't come into the camp. Jesus is the Passover lamb because he dies inside the camp as a covering of life for life. In other words, his blood is life. It gives you life. The animal life gives you life. A cleansing process, it's a covering process, it's a purification process. Once you do the occultic practice. It's all about the practice. The high priest does it. Jesus goes and do it as the high priest. As the high priest, he goes and stands before the true tabernacle, the one that Moses saw in heaven, and he presents himself as a wave offering before Yahweh. And he says, here it is. He's not turned into sin. He's none of that stuff. He takes on the curse of death. The curse is death. But the life is in the blood. And his blood is eternal life. You see how that works together now? Makes more sense than some of the stuff you hear on TV and everything else, doesn't it? When you understand the cultic practice. So Jesus presents himself. He's cleansing. He's covering kippur. Kippur. That's what it means. Here's another word for you. Kippur. I wasn't even thinking about this one. A kippur. Yeah, I do it right. Kippur. To atone something. I don't know how to spell atonement in English. So you have to correct me. Atonement has been just butchered with all our theology. So I don't even go to this word. I don't care about this word. I go right to this word. And kippur means to cover. It can be lid. It sanctifies. It gets rid of. It puts life. The blood is in the kippur. The kippur is the blood because Jesus' blood is the kippur. So it puts life in you. So you don't escape the first death, but you don't receive the second death. The first death is the way of Jesus. So we all follow Jesus into death. This is why it's synergism. Because we're all acting with God in the action of salvation. Because you can walk away. You don't think you can walk away? I tell you right now, I walked away. I was not in the grace of God at one time in my life. I walked away. I just gave up. So I have to make a decision every day. And we know it ain't predestined. If think about it, if God is the one that predestined all of it, then God is evil. God's not good, and that can't be, because God creates good. He doesn't create evil. Evil is an after effect. How much good you get evil. Right? You know what good is because you see evil. You know what good. It's like the yin yang. Not the twins, though. We don't do the twins, the yin yang twins. I'm just messing. I did listen to it back in the day. Anyways, so that's my tangent. So animal blood, which contains life, belongs to God alone and never to be ingested. Leviticus 17:10 through 10, Deuteronomy 12:16. The Jews regarded this prohibition as a binding on all humanity, with the results that the Gentiles lacked the concern to drain the blood from their meat was regarded as one of the abominations committed by them. And you ever went hunting and shot your first deer? I'm hunting with friends that shot the first deer, and that friend looks at you and goes, you know, brother, I got 25% Native American in me. We got to do what we got to do. And he starts drinking the blood. You ever been with one of them friends? I had one of them friends. That's not clean. That's not kosher.
I've been hunting before with my uncle
Yeah.
and my dad.
Yep. Another thing is, I had a friend. If the meat was still warm, he found it on the side of the road, he would eat it. And I was just like, you're crazy. I am not. No, he's from here. Country bung him to death.
Take a bite of the heart.
Well, you know you got your first name and your middle name is the same name. You know your country. Bubba. You're right. Anyways, so the abomination committed by them. Jewish meat was limited to the land mammals that were ruminated, chewed the cud, and had a split hoof. Think about cows. Cows have split hoofs. They chew the cud. That means they regurgitate. Right? Rather than a paw, like a weasel, or a single hoof like a horse. So you can't eat horse, people. Stop it. Get some help.
Hey, we like McDonald's.
It was essential that an animal could have both features. There was seafood limited to fish with both fins and scales. What can't you eat? What's one of the food? Shark. There you go. You can't eat shark then.
Really?
Yep.
I've never had it yet, but I really do want to try it.
Oh, it tastes good.
Really? You had it?
Now listen to this guy. He's not kosher. Not kosher. Not kosher. What is this? What are you? What are you?
Lobster, shrimp,
What are you, babe?
bacon.
If I catch it or kill it, I eat it.
The chicken nut. The chicken nut. All right. Anyways.
Bird.
Birds could be eaten as long as they were not birds of prey, that is, feeding on other animals or carcasses.
Oh, yeah, I would want to eat a vulture.
That's right. What else is a vulture that a lot of people like, so they don't deem them as vultures? What else will eat dead things? Eagles.
Yeah.
Eagles
People
will eat.
eat eagles?
No, eagles eat dead things. They're technically a
Oh,
vulture.
yeah.
They're in the same family. Hawks, bats. So the Hebrew
That's a
word,
mammal.
yeah, I know, but I put that in there because the Bible doesn't distinguish. So, how do you spell oof? I can't remember. I think it's an olive. I think it looks like this. Remember, this has no sound, so it doesn't matter. So you go right, you skip this and go right to this. So oof, this means wings. You left, baby. Woo! It just means wings. So when God is making distinct, when He's anything that flies. So in Genesis, He can talk about pterodactyl. It flies.
Yeah, I've never got to eat one of those, but I would try definitely if you had it.
These are bats. Bats are not clean. So I just threw that in there. The Bible doesn't really distinguish. They just call
Well,
things
I'm
wing it.
Aussie, so I think I'm okay.
Yeah, Ozzy Osbourne, yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Birds were eaten as long as they were feeding on animal carcass. Insects were unclean, save the locust and the grasshopper family. When I was at the synagogue, we had a survivalist come in. When I was at the When I was at the Messianic synagogue, we had a survivalist come in, and we ate locusts. They're actually not that bad. I have to admit, I ate one not cooked and one cooked. I took it for the team.
How do they cook it?
Over a little fire. It doesn't take long. It just you put
Do
it
they
in and
add
pull it.
salt
No, they're not big enough to add something. But definitely when you pop the head, you get the main vein out. So yeah, it wasn't a fond memory, but I did it. Grasshoppers families, whether an animal was clean or unclean depended on how it was equipped to move in the environment. Leviticus 11:3, 9, 12, 20 to 21 on its diet. Scavengers are thus unclean, as are sea creatures that move on legs, proper for land rather than by fins, proper to sea. Likewise, the observance of the Sabbath and circumcision, dietary laws were also reinforced Jewish identity and groups' boundaries in some very practical ways. The fact that Jews studiously avoided certain foods was well known to the Gentiles in whose midst they lived. This is mainly a problem within the Gentile culture. In particular, their avoidance of pork. The Jewish cuisine, therefore became another essential point at which the lines between inside Jew and outsider Gentile, were drawn. Jews had to be sure that the source of their food was clean. That is, that an animal had been properly killed. All blood was drained rather than left to settle in the meat, and had no connections with the polluting idols of the world around them. Paul talks about this. He says, "Don't eat." He said he talks about this in the sense that when you go into a market and you sit down to eat meat, don't be afraid because you don't know whether the food was offered to an idol or not. So Paul's trying to get the future Christians, the people who want to take on the term Christians, and probably at this time the Jewish community that followed Jesus was called Hadarach. Hadarach. Anybody know what Hadarach is? The way.
Yeah.
The way. So when you meet someone named Derek, you say, "Hello, the way." That's what Derek means. I have a friend named Derek. I just pick on him and say, "Hello, the way." I'm just
Were eggs kosher?
Yeah, eggs are questa kosher. They're called beitza in Hebrew. The beitza. The house. That's what they're called.
But they come from bringing it out.
Certain eggs. How about that? Certain eggs. But yes, chicken eggs are clean.
Chickens are scavengers.
How about ostrich?
You know, I never understood that first of all. How does chickens make the list? I have chickens. I grew up with chickens. Chickens eat anything. Anyways, I can't. Okay.
Gross.
This would not have been a great concern for Judea. Oh, I'm sorry. Y'all don't have a paper. I apologize. Might be hard to find me. Find me where I'm at. Might be hard for me to find where I'm at now myself. Where am I at, brother?
You were starting, this would not have been a great concern in Judea.
Where's that at?
Right there.
Oh, okay. Okay, this would not not have been a great concern in Judea, but would have occupied the Jews' attention in diaspora, or outside of Israel. The result that the Jews tended to develop their own markets for food, and they gathered their communities around these markets, showing how remarkably effective dietary restrictions can be for reinforcing social groupings. And this is why they make ghettos. You know, we call ghettos now, usually ghettos have a negative,
Connotation.
but at this time, the word ghetto is a Yiddish word. It comes from the Jews, and this is why they developed ghettos. Ghettos allow them to have their own rules. This is also why they probably got kicked out of so many countries, because rumors and things like that. Now, without being too crazy on these topics, you know, I can understand where they're coming from, and I can understand where the people who are living in a nation are coming from. Because if you are a king and you have people outside from your nation and they move into your area, I can understand why he's a little crazy about that when they won't, you know, come into the community or be part of the community. Yeah, assimilate to the community, right? Because then it keeps, you're trying to figure out, well, who are they loyal to when they have no loyalty because they're not part of the culture. And culture is especially for ancient people. The most important thing to ancient people is not the color of your skin or what you look like. It's culture. If you appear into a white camp as a white person and you showed up to their culture, first of all, nobody used the term black and white. That's a modern day concept. But let's use this modern day concept for a minute, since we understand it. If you showed up and you showed up to these cultures and you didn't know the rituals, it didn't matter whether you were the same color of them or not. They were already worried about you. They were concerned about you. This is also why tribes would go to war with each other and wipe each other out. Because of these reasons. Because what gods do you serve? What are your cultures? What do you do? What do you believe? Are you a spy? You were usually quickly deemed a spy or someone seeking. So they didn't live their life the way we look at life now. They didn't live their life like that. America is exception to the rule. America is the first culture to try to do a melting pot theory, where everybody is melted into one culture the best you can, into the belief that everybody deserves their independence and freedom and all that, their nature law. Then you got a guy like me who would be like, well, what is nature law? Because I study nature, and that law looks pretty brutal. I don't know if I want nature's law. I want God's law, divine law. And don't throw me in Christian nationalism, because everybody has these labels now, and they try to label you these things, and then because you may see some things good and some things bad. I try to usually tread up the middle of a lot of the idealisms out there, because everybody has it's what makes truth. Does truth make truth, or does the person speaking make truth? Well, if only the person speaking makes truth, then even when Hitler was saying something that was truthful, that means he's a liar. Or could Hitler say something truthful and it be true? Hitler could say water's wet. So knowledge, good, right or wrong, or truth or false, doesn't come from the carrying agent. It comes from the fact that it's true. So even a bad guy can have truth, right? You know, a clock is right at least twice. A broken clock is right at least twice, you know, in a day. So they can be right on some things. And that's what makes deception so scary, because it is mixed with false.
Yeah, falsehood mixed with truth is dangerous.
Yeah, it's the most dangerous. One of the greatest studies ever is the study of how to control a population. So if you're trying to control a population, you don't send, if you go to a European culture, you don't try to control a population by sending a black man or an Asian man into that mix. You send a European into that mix, because European will blend in. See why the ancient tribes were nervous about outsiders? Because they didn't know what you were there for. And they would just rather kill you and be done with you and deal with that and allow you to come and destroy their society. We don't care about that no more. We were taught all that's garbage. How's it working out for you? I just want to, there's my little crazy rant there. How is that working out for the cultures? The door seems only open one way, doesn't it not?
Europe's not doing too good right now.
No, Europe's not doing too good. You can't pray out in front of an abortion center, but you can bow down and start saying something about Allah in the streets. God rest a king. Yeah. Yes, I don't have a problem. Like, I never had a problem. I used to work with a Muslim guy, a really nice guy. But he would do it over there. Like, he didn't drop down in front of when I worked at Lowe's a long time ago when I was really young. And he was a Muslim, and we got along. We didn't agree about the Jesus thing. That's fine. He was wrong. And he would get down on his thing, and he would do, Allah, Allah Akbar, all that stuff, which was fine. And this was right after 9/11, so a lot of people were afraid of him. I never, what are you going to do, kill me? I'm going to die anyways. I'm dying now. I'm dying to get out of here. And so are you. I just want you to know. Anyway, so I was hang out with him. He was overall he was a good guy. Again, I mean, was he performing taqiyya where they you until they? I don't know, because if you know anything about the culture, they'll lie. I've been to debates with Muslims. Muslims will make up stuff on you in the middle of the debate just so they can win the debate, because they don't care. They'll say things that, they'll jump at you, especially if you bring up Aisha and Aisha's age. They'll start saying Rebecca was 5, and there's no place in the Bible where Rebecca's 5. First of all, she carries 3 heavy water jugs, ancient water jugs, which are usually clay, to water a camel. If a 5-year-old can pick up these, and they're usually about that big.
That's one strong 5-year-old.
That's what I said. That's one strong 5-year-old. So,
She is.
yeah. Mom and Dad's giving her some of that beaver milk, huh?
She probably got 6 packs and just like.
Just so y'all know, steroids first came from beavers. That's why I said beaver milk. But it wasn't beaver milk. Anyway. All right, social group. The assigning of specific portions of sacrifices to God. Priests, in the case of well-being sacrifices, lay persons added another dimension to the social function of purity laws concerning food. God's portions was too holy for any human to ingest, and the priest portions were too holy for the lay people to ingest. In other words, so when the average Jewish man, even though he's here, his food is still too sanctified for this guy, the unclean guy, the Tamei guy. So the Gentiles couldn't eat with the Jewish man, because even the average common Jewish man was still too kosher or kadesh to eat with the unclean. So there was a level, and it kept separation. Now that don't mean you can't go from here to here or to here to here. You can do that. That's what you've done, right? Somebody in your generation, maybe you personally, somebody in your family said, I'm going to cast off Odin and all this crazy nonsense stuff of Ragnarok, and because most of you are European, I'm just using European mythology, and said, I'm going to accept Jesus Christ. I'm going to follow Jesus. And so in that sense, once Jesus' blood comes into your life and you are baptized and you repent, what happens? Well, what is a baptism in the first place? It's a cleansing process. It's to take you from here to these. Let's see, where are we at? sacrifice, well-being, sacrifice. God's portion was too holy for.
What about the 22:10?
Okay.
Yeah, while distinguishing.
Okay. While digesting between clean and unclean animals is common to all Israelites as a sign of Israel's separation from the nation, there is another dimension to food, seen especially in tithes, reserved for priests alone and well-being offering, divided between God, priests, and worshipers that reinforce social structures within the group. Finally, Jewish purity codes were concerned with the boundaries of individual Jewish bodies. This is a great book Vixen get to mention here. Mary Douglas' extensive study on modern tribal cultures as well as ancient Israelite cultures leads her to the insight that the body is a model which can stand for bounded system. In other words, so the individual rabbi or the individual Jewish man was his own cosmology, was his own cosmos. It worked in that function, and they bound together, which made even more holy space. So you became holy space, you had boundaries to you, and then you extend them boundaries as you come into a group. And that made even more that increased the boundaries as a group. So it started out as an individual thing as much as it is a social thing, a cultural thing. Many purity codes displayed a strong interest in the wholeness of surface of the human body, which in turn reflects the interest in the wholeness of the boundaries of the social body. The firm fixed definition who belongs to the group and who does not. Concern over what enters and exists a body also correlates with the larger concern over what enters and exists the social bodies and desire for regulating the flow. See, it says what I'd said earlier. Basically, this is why they didn't like outsiders. Outsiders could be something like this. They could bring uncleanliness to you. And what happens when you bring uncleanliness to you? It spreads. What happens when that spreads across the whole nation? Then the nation is kicked out. Then God says, I will drive you out like I drove out the Canaanites. He drove out the Canaanites because they did wrong. They worship Baal, they worship El, they worship Azroth, they worship all these false beings, they sacrifice their children into the fire. So how does Moloch work in there? If they worship El and Baal, well, Baal is probably Moloch, and Moloch's probably, so that's probably more like a city. So they were city-states, just so y'all know. And city-states had their own high god. And so Baal could carry on. There's Baal Ashdod. So this is common in ancient times. When they had similar gods or similar deities, a lot of times they just mesh them together and add to the title. The Egyptians do this. All right? The Egyptians do this with certain titles. And one just slipped my mind where Osiris takes on Osiris Re. He takes on an extra title. He takes on the son of Re. Originally, he wasn't the son of Re through what we know from archaeology, but he becomes the son of Re. And then Re takes on a Ra, however you want to pronounce it. Technically, properly is Re, not Ra, but most of us know it's a Ra. So in Ra takes on these extra titles. So he takes on Ra Ptah. Who was Ptah? Ptah was one of the high deities of one of the city-states before they were all come together. And so that's usually how all these titles work. So that's why you can have Moloch is the same as Baal. The same functions, everything. In fact, in astrology, Jupiter is called Moloch. Moloch has a son, and his name is Selim. And in ancient times, you would say a city is called Ur. And so the pagans built the city called Ur-Salim. I wonder what name of that city becomes. And later it becomes Jerusalem. So that when Melchizedek walked the earth, that's why I have a whole controversial thing. Melchizedek probably was a pagan. But God's using the pagan as an image bearer. He doesn't have to know he's being used, but God is using him. So God can use people. So it depends on how you fall in these things. But Selim was the evening minor deity of the sun, Moloch. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the son Moloch. It could be the son of he could have been the son of the sun, Shemesh. I might be wrong on that. But Jupiter was Moloch. Yeah, I think it was Shemesh. Shemesh was worship also. Anyways, so So they just took on, what they do as one state got conquered by the other state, they just took these and made them into pantheons. They added them to the pantheon. Rome did this. Everybody does this. And they had titles. The Greeks did it. Yeah, that's why you get the one guy. There's a later deity. He has like 3 God's names in his title. Anyways. So, where we at? I was at the top. Given this analysis, it comes as no surprise. Let me hold my marker and make notes. Given this analysis, it comes as no surprise that so much discussions of pollutions with regard to the human body focuses on surface, clothing, and skin, on fluids that crosses through the gates of the body, and on bodies that have crossed the boundary between life and death. In a Hebrew culture, death is a curse, not a blessing. Egyptians seen death as a blessing, not a curse. The death of the community member invokes powerful feelings in a sense that something numinous and threatening has broken into normal life. Dead bodies, therefore, in the house they lie and are a source of pollution. The rotting appearance of the skin associated with a variety of disorders lumped together under the heading of leprosy is another potent source of uncleanliness. The condition is closely connected with death. See Numbers 12:12, which compares Miriam leprosy with the flesh of a stillborn child. Everybody remember Mary called leprosy when she backtalked Zipporah, Moses' wife. She was trying to start rumors. Women. I'm just messing. And the focus for it compares Mary leprosy. The focus for its diagnosis is the erosion of the surface and the loss of integrity to the body's outer boundary. The result is a state of uncleanliness, incommunicable defilement, with the results that the leper is excluded from the general population as long as the outbreak lasts. Leviticus 13:45 through 46. You see this in the New Testament all the time. What happens when the leper gets he's on the road? He's supposed to holler what? Unclean, unclean.
To anybody approaching.
That's right. While sweating, that reminds me that Bishop always tells the story of the priest who started off, he went to the leper's island. Remember that story? He said it's a beautiful story. And he's like, you are who are unclean, come. Take on Eucharist. And then finally at the end, he goes, we who are unclean, come, take on Eucharist. Because he called leprosy, taking care of them, feeding them, making sure they had their basic needs in life. And that's a great thing, because what does Jesus say? No greater love than this, that a man lays down his life for another man. While sweating, crying, urinating, defecating, or even bleeding from a cut are not regarded as polluting. All discharges related to sexual apertures and reproductive process are again, no doubt, because the process of birth and death are seen as charged with sacral power in danger, in addition to the substance that passed out of the sexual orifices. Pollutions will come through what passed into the mouth. Why do I have to put that next? Here, the dietary regulations concerning what is abominable to eat, like blood, and what is clean or unclean for the Jew, come to play. Eating unclean food is different class of pollution from suffering a discharge or touching someone who has a discharge. Leviticus specifies what is to be done when discharge pollution occurs. But it does not envision the possibility of purification after eating pork. In other words, you deliberately did it. You're in grace then. You got to ask God for grace. There's no offering. Which is funny because a lot of things people think there'll be offering for. Sexual sins. Like a man lays with another man. There's no offering for that. A man lays with his daughter. There's no offering for that. They're put out of the camp. And Leviticus 18 tells you they're all killed. So if they're all destroyed, what about now? What about now? I thought there was only one unforgiven sin. Makes you think. Get your life right. Don't risk it. That's why I always say, don't wait for your death. Don't wait for your deathbed to call me in and confess. I've been to 15 of them, and they're my nightmares to this day. In fact, I got one I dream about a lot. She comes to me a lot in my dreams, and that's the 27-year-old who died from alcohol poison. She went from being like, when I first met her, she went from being like that to looking like a ball, like just perfectly round, just pouring water out of her body because she had jaundice and her body just kept fluids. And I remember like every day going there. I went there every day for a long time because a friend of mine, his name was Dorian. He called me up. He's like, Ben, come here, please come help me out. And he got with her, thinking she was going to change some of her ways. And let me tell you something. You cannot save somebody. If you're in a relationship where you're just there because you're trying to save somebody, leave. Just leave. You're punishing yourself. You're torturing yourself. You're not their hero. You're not their hero. I've been there personally in my life trying to save people. I'm not their hero. And whatever happens, and that's why I had to tell him, it's like, whatever happens, not your fault. You're not her hero. And, a lot, here I got it, I'm going to get considered sexist. But a lot of women do play that game where they want a man to save them.
Yes, that's why we were married.
Yeah.
That's how we were
Yeah.
raised.
And men want to slay dragons. Jordan Peterson was right about that. He stole that from me. I kid you not. 2002, I was talking about slaying dragons. And I never even heard of the guy. And all of a sudden, he's like, we got to slay dragons. So I'm like, wait a minute, buddy. I said that. Because I realized that's what I want to do. I wanted to run in. The reason why the fairy tale catches both, male and female, is because men want to run in and we want to fight that battle. And guys want to fix things, and I'm bad. Me and Nicole sat there and watched a video about that. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I showed her that. She never heard of that. So I showed her that, and as soon as we were done, I was ready to I fell for it. I fell right on track. I got mad because I was trying to say, I wanted to help her, to understand. And she's like, I don't care. I'm like, no, you can understand. And next thing I know, we're in an argument. I'm like, darn it, I failed already. We just got done watching the video. Because I want to do that. I want to rescue. I want to save. I want to guard and protect. It's just my nature. That's what a man does. That is how I was raised a man was. A man was supposed to be stern and stoic, and no matter what comes his way. I remember our first day in working in construction, I was 16. My whole life felt like it was falling apart, and I really wanted to run into the outhouse and cry because it was the worst experience of my life. And I remember just hearing my dad in the background. It wasn't a speech he gave me. I made the speech up in my head, and it said, if I don't work today, my son starves and my wife starves. I have to work. So no matter how hard it gets, I have to push through. And I sucked up every tear, and I told myself from this day on, I won't cry no more. This is where the stop crying stuff actually comes from with me. I thought about it. I said, I'm not going to cry. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to suck it up, and I'm going to push through. Because if I stop, I die. So I have to push through, and so that's what I did. So I went from making $6 an hour, getting treated like crap, to working a great job. But I would have never. And most of that time without a diploma, I was a dropout. I learned Hebrew before I got a diploma. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Because nothing stopped me. If I needed it, I did it. If I didn't care. That was my mentality. I pushed through. That's what you do. That's what a guy does. You don't sit around and cry about it. And you definitely don't cry at your wife. That's where I made a mistake. Because I'm like, hey, I want to talk about these things. Because, honestly, is it sexy if a man cries to you?
It is. I like some vulnerability, of course.
You women are liars. Every one of you. I've done looked at the studies. You can lie to me on there.
You're a husband and wife. You should be able to
They say if a man's vulnerable, looking at a study, now I'm just doing study, women, big study. It said,
I don't want you to be like that in front of, other people, and if there's confrontation, I want you to be the big bear that you need to be and,
okay.
attack somebody. Don't let them come in.
See what they're doing to me, David? Women. No, I'm just messing. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Before I met Joe, I asked God for a macho, sensitive man.
A macho.
A macho, sensitive man.
That's an
And
oxymoron.
I'll tell you what, that's exactly what I got. And to me, that is so sexy.
Yes.
Yes.
You know what helped me out? Macho Man Randy Savage. When you said Macho Man, I couldn't. Macho Man Randy Savage he did a thing with he did an interview with Arsenio Hall, and I played it for a friend of mine because he was like, oh, I gotta be a man, And he liked wrestling, so I played it for him so he could kind of get sensitive a little bit. You know, not always have to be. And he talks about, he's like, I crawled with the snakes. I don't want to do I can do Macho Man really good, but I don't want to do it because it hurts my throat. So I'm going to avoid it. Oh yeah. No, I'm sorry. But he goes, I crawled with I flew with the doves and I crawled with the snakes, and I've been in everything in between. And I can tell you, Macho Man is just as Macho Man when he cries and when he doesn't. And I thought that was really good.
Cry strong. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Nicole caught it on camera because it was shocking. She showed me a picture of a Yeti cup that she had with my parents' face. And I don't have a lot of, I honestly, until I recently, I have a few pictures of my mom and my dad on my phone now. But I don't have a lot of pictures. I don't have no pictures of my parents or anything like that other than recently. And I saw that picture. She went and got it from, it was my parents' wedding photo, second wedding together. They divorced each other and then got remarried. But yeah, that's what I said. I said, Dad, if you went around once, you didn't like it. What made you jump back on? But no, it's the wedding photo, and that hit me because at that point I haven't seen my dad's face in a long time. And the first thing I pulled up is there's my dad's face, and it hit me hard, and I started crying because I couldn't help it. So we're almost done. Okay, let's get down here to this break part. So I'm gonna read a little fast, and you need to catch up. We can catch up next. Pollutions could occur, but it does not envision the pollutions could attack, I don't know where I'm going there, the Israelites through his or her food from a number of indirect sources as well. Unclean swarming creatures like lizards, rodents would defile clay, wood, cloth, or animal skin utensils and containers. Open containers of liquid and wet foods and seeds were liable to contract pollutions. Leviticus 11:37-38. Whether from contaminations or carcasses of swarming creatures, Israelites were especially careful to protect the food set apart for the priests in Jerusalem, for such contamination for unclean food would pollute the temple and defile the personnel. So even with that, they had other things that could take them. We're going to stop there because it's already on. Any questions about anything? Any questions about the words on the board? All right.